Brothers, lads, men of YouTube. There's a big fucking flaw going down right now. And this could be the one thing that is stunting your growth, inhibiting your growth, and just keeping you stuck. And this, my friend, is the ideology, the frame of I'm good enough, right? And today I want to completely dismantle this mindset and this way of thinking, feeling, acting, operating in life, and give you the real insight, the real sauce to how to destroy average and become undeniable. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but there's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. We're going to put this up here. You can maybe go research it, but the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and excuse my 10-year-old handwriting, right? But I explain this to clients all the time, and quite frankly for me, once I realised and understood what this was, it was a complete game changer for me. Because I used to go through a lot of cycles, and I'm sure you guys go through a lot of cycles of you're absolutely crushing it, absolutely killing it. The next thing you know, you can barely motivate yourself to get out of bed on a morning. Your diet goes to shit, your training goes to shit, and then the last 3 or 6 months of progress just fizzles out and you lack motivation. So if you're in this camp, guys, the same as I have been before, the same as many of my clients have been before, the same as you're potentially experiencing right now, then this video is going to open your eyes to a whole new way of operating, right? So the Dunning-Kruger effect, it kind of rides on this X and Y axis. So we've got it like this, okay? Boom, I'm sure this is the X axis and this is the Y axis right here. So initially, when you kick off a mission, kick off a journey, you say to yourself, you know what, bro, this is my fucking time. I'm going to lock in. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to get really dialed in and get in the best shape of my life, the best physical and mental shape of my life. I'm going to build my business. I'm just going to bend reality and become an absolute savage. I'm sure we've had those thoughts before when you're lying in bed at night thinking off the back of a heavy weekend, you know, this Monday coming, I'm changing the game, right? And you know, more credit to you if you're thinking that way. That's great. You've got ambition. That's step number one. But the way it normally happens, right, is you start here and you spike up and then we'll drop and it will taper off. This is essentially how it looks, right, from the outside looking in, bird's eye view. Up here is called, I'm going to, abbreviate it. We call it the peak of Mount Stupid, PMS, not post-menstrual cycle, but peak of Mount Stupid, okay? And then down here, we've got the Valley of Despair, so VOD. And then this over here is the slope of enlightenment, okay? So we've got 3 phases in which everyone will go through. And this phase here, we'll call this 1, 2, and 3 actually for simplicity, right? Phase number 1 is where, let's say, people fully commit, they decide to go all in. They shift some body fat, they level up their confidence, they start operating better with their habits, they dial in their nutrition, right? And they maybe shift 15, 20, 25 pounds of body fat, have a little bit of a physique going on. They feel aligned, they feel dialed in, they maybe decide to stop drinking alcohol, stop saying yes to everything and chasing little simple pleasures, all that dopamine. Okay, they got dialed in for roughly about 12 weeks, we'll call it. This is usually a 1 to 12 week kind of thing. But the biggest issue here is when you get to the top, the peak of Mount Stupid up here, mountain for M, you think you fucking know it all. You think you're God's gift. You think you are the best version of yourself that you will ever be. You think you're an absolute G in every aspect, but lo and behold, guys, you've literally just ticked off one box. You've hit phase 1, right? And you're up here, you think you're killing it. You're like, all that stuff I've learned, all that stuff I've done, it's my new identity. I am this person now, and I'm going to be this person for the rest of my life. And you know what? All the things I've been doing, all the habits, the thoughts, the beliefs, the behaviors, the actions, everything that I've been doing, I can just park them for a bit and, mosey on my life. And, hats off to you. You've built a little bit of a decent physique. You've got a mid physique. You're a little bit better than average now. And that's a thumbs up from me to you. Well fucking done. But when you reach the peak of Mount Stupid, the thing is with any mountain, any peak that you hit in life, guess what happens at the top of a mountain? The air is thin, the space is tight. You're going to have to come the fuck down because you can't stay at the top for too long. You have to obviously come down, prepare for the next push. Get clear, understand what went wrong, what didn't go wrong. But this is the thing, a lot of guys create themselves this false ledge. And what happens at the side of the false ledge? They fall off and they don't know how to catch themselves because their identity currently is not caught up with their current habits, right? They're almost running away from pain rather than moving towards pleasure, right? And that's like that sliding scale. I've maybe spoke of it before. It's like a seesaw. This is you at the start. You maybe get to a midpoint, which is here, but you have to tip the seesaw to get down to X, the next level. But let's say you're at the top of Mount Stupid, uninformed optimism. You think you're a G. What's going to happen is you're going to come crashing and tumbling down, right, to the valley of despair, where all of those habits, behaviors, frameworks, routines fall to shit. You realize you're not as good as you think you are. You get a little knock to your confidence. Maybe that physique you got built for Ibiza, over the last 3 months doesn't look the same. You maybe overate, overdrank, you fell back on your old habits, your old way of living, your old way of operating. And guess what happens? There's too much of a gap between the game. There's a game of tug of war going on mentally, physically, emotionally. You just feel spread from pillar to post. You thought you were this guy, but now you're acting like this guy, and there's so much of a disconnect that you feel really low in confidence. You start stressing out, you start freaking out almost because you ran out of steam, you ran out of motivation, right? And this valley of despair can last for 6 months, 12 months, a year. We all know those motherfuckers that have a couple of photos on Instagram and they're absolutely diced or peeled. But guess where those photos are taken? Ocean Beach, Morocco, they're in Dubai, they're in Bali. They've pushed themselves and prepped themselves for a one-hit wonder. They're not a 360 kind of guy. They're not a person that holds a unique standard year-round. They're a one-trick pony. They know how to get in shape, but they can't maintain it, right? They don't have the right mindset for the sustainability approach. And this is where it erodes their confidence. It knocks them off their high horse. It leaves them belly up. And they usually have too much ego installed to realize that they don't know everything, right? Because what you don't know, you don't know. And what I know, I know. And if you knew what I knew, you would know what I know. And you would be able to move forward with pace every single time and steam past the valley of despair. The big false ledge in which you create for yourself wouldn't be as big a drop. It wouldn't be 100 miles an hour to the floor, face planting. It'd be a small wee ledge that you drop off, look around, think, cool, next thing, and you'd move. But all the pain, the stress, the guilt, the shame that comes with living in the valley of despair, it can last for as long as you want to let it, guys. It can be, as I say, a 6, a 12, a 2-year thing. It can be whatever it might be. But you need to realize in life that you can't get high in the highs or low in the lows. You've got to operate from a place of neutrality when it comes to your emotional regulation. You've got to think a goal is not the goal. A goal is a checkpoint for the grandiose, the main outcome, the living standard, the identity. You hear a lot of people on social media, right, say, it's about balance. It's a lifestyle. Well, they're not wrong, but the thing is you can't have balance if you are unbalanced. If you are a one-trick pony and you can get in shape for a holiday, you can run it for 12 weeks and push it. That's not balance. Balance is the way I currently live, where you've got sub 10% body fat year round, you train consistently every single week, cardio every single week, macros dialed in every single week. You can plan in flexible cheat meals, off-plan meals, social drinks with the guys, holidays, trips, whatever. I'm always year round, anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks away from being in my peak shape. And that's what you guys can have too. But if you love anxiety, if you love lack of motivation, if you lack discipline, well, you're always going to live down here and you're going to be very unhappy, like that little strange unhappy face that I drew there. But stage number 3 is, a great stage. This is where, maybe I'd probably say 5 out of 10 guys realise this. It's about 50% margin from what I've realised. And the thing is, I wouldn't touch a client. I wouldn't even fucking go near a client if they're like, yeah, I want to do this in 8 weeks. Yeah, I want to do this in 12 weeks. I think making a short micro goal like that is great for the outcome, but I will not commit to even working with a client if they're not in it for the long game. If they don't want the full 360 transformation across physique, mindset, lifestyle, habits, supplementation, business, identity, the whole 9 miles, right? I just won't. You can go find yourself a little fluffy fat loss coach, a little transformation challenge coach. Cool, go do that, right? But the 5 guys out of the 10 guys, the 50%, they truly understand that they weren't put on this God-given earth to be fucking average, to just reach a golden faceplant, and always fall off the false ledge. Then the 5 out of 10 guys will start scaling to the next level. This is mastery. This is the best spot possible. So we've got peak amount stupid, where a lot of you guys fail, valley of despair, where a lot of you guys live, and then we have the slope of enlightenment, right? That's where you start building momentum. And guys, no one likes an uphill battle, but I tell you what, this is what I was talking about with the seesaw effect. You gotta push the boulder up the hill. You gotta be ready to grind. You need the systems, you need the team, you need the support, and you need to understand the long game. See, when you play life on the infinite game rather than the finite game, all the motherfuckers play, I'd probably say 99% of fuckers, right? A lot of you chumps out there, you're playing life on the finite game, looking for the easiest, quickest, fastest way to turn things around. Guys, you can't fix a 6-year train wreck in 6 weeks. Remember that. But the guys that are really in it for the long-term success, the long-term growth, they understand and they value the identity shift. They value long-term growth, not just for a week, a month, a year, but for the rest of their life, because they really do deep it. They really get clear on, if I was to be the very most successful version of myself, and I speak about this all the time, but let's say you're down here, we'll call it personal development, you're down here, but your success is up here. You have to stack personal development, meet it on a horizontal line, work across that, because your level of success, right, it will always be in congruence with how much energy and focus you put into your personal development. Your personal development will never outweigh your level of success. So it's always about stacking personal development, and when you're actually in this for the long term, you become a lot more personally developed. Anyone can stick to a 12-week plan and get lean, drop some body fat. Anyone can run as fast as they can and just use willpower and all their energy and their drive for a short period of time. It's like putting your foot to the floor in the motor and just gunning it. Yeah, you might get your destination quicker, but the car's going to run out of fuel. And you might be in the middle of nowhere when you get there. Sound familiar? So the slope of enlightenment is where you gain self-mastery. This is when you start investing heavily into your health, your well-being, your mindset. You pay in full, you drop the hammer, and you commit fully to the process, to becoming the man you've always wanted to be, the one that doesn't settle for average, the one that doesn't use discipline or motivation, he uses inspired intention. He operates from a place of love rather than fear. He's not running away from anything. He's not prepping for anything. He's just in a state of flow. This is where I'm at right now. It's taken me 10 years, guys, right? And if you think you know everything I know and you've only been doing it for 6 months, a year, you're completely wrong, because it's very similar stuff that we do day to day, except I'm much more intentional. I've got a lot more depth. I've got a better mindset, right? I see things from a longer time horizon, a bird's eye view, if you will. And it allows me to take my time. And every little bump that comes along the way in the slope of enlightenment, I pause, I breathe, I reflect, I understand, who do I now need to invest into? What knowledge, what skill gaps do I need to fill? How can I shorten the feedback loop? How can I gain clarity, gain confidence, and remove myself from being the glass ceiling? Because when you've got the right system, the right philosophy, the right brothers around you, the right frameworks in place to actually become who you said you wanted to be, and remove all of the friction in which people who have already done what you want to do in the highest level have been through, you can just speak to them, ask them for guidance, advice, gain the clarity, and move past the bottlenecks, move past the speed bumps without just getting knocked off your high horse like you would up here. Because there's a big difference between those who win in the long term and those who win on the short term. And again, if you want to play silly games, guys, you're going to win silly prizes. Think about how volatile this big spike is. Think about how volatile that big jump is, right? It's crazy, it's scary. You will feel like your life's moving at 100 miles an hour. This drop as well will tank your fucking self-worth. Because you've not actually done as much self-work as you think, and the self-work does install the self-worth. And that big drop feels like a plummet that will never end until you're living in the valley of despair and things feel sticky, you're going back on vices, you're waking up late, you're wanking, you're smoking, you're drinking, you're chasing chicks. When you start working up the slope of enlightenment and reach self-mastery and you've got the right people around you, systems, processes, you're in a state of abundance, people are attracted to you, you pull them in financially, relationship-wise, energy-wise, your network grows and blossoms. You realize that you're going through an identity change. You're literally changing who you are. And like I said at the start, your identity catches up with these new habits and you start leveling up, you start compounding the success, you start compounding the growth habits. Because you realize that for you to really win, the result, the end goal, isn't actually something you care about the process. And you can't have the result without the process, so you just put all your focus into the process. And that, my friends, is when you're in peak enlightenment, peak mastery, self-mastery. Because you're not chasing, you're just living, you're attracting, you're moving. Have you ever seen a millionaire rush? No, he doesn't rush. So why don't you focus your intention on being the millionaire, having the millionaire mindset? Don't rush anything. Do everything with as much depth, as much intention. Follow your intuition, right? Because you know yourself. You don't just want to be in shape for one summer and be that guy in the pub that's showing his mates, like, that was me in summer. Oh, bro, you got in such good shape. But you look like a fucking bag of stuffed marshmallows. Now, nobody gives a fuck. Results now are more important than results back then. Results in the future are even further more important than the results you have now. So again, it's the sliding scale. It's like jumping. It's like breadcrumbs. It's like stepping stones. And if you try cut corners, if you try, cheat the system, if you start taking things as your first fat loss phase and you're stuffing Anavar and you're stuffing clenbuterol down your gut and you're running a 1,600 calorie diet and you're doing 4,000 calories of cardio a week and 20k steps a day and you're just killing yourself eating fucking rabbit food, of course you're going to get lean. But if you want to build a strong, masculine, dense physique that's powerful, if you want to live in alignment and operate incredibly well with your business, your relationships, and not sacrifice anything, then you need to realize that this bump is inevitable, it will happen. But never marry yourself to the peak amount of stupid. Never think you're as good as you think you are, right? Because then that ego, that inflated, uninformed optimism, that ego that drives you initially will fade, will dissipate, and that'll tank you down into a place in space you'll fucking regret, right? But we all have to go through it. That's the thing. This is the cycle of life, guys. But this period here, this is probably like 1 to 12 weeks. This could be 6 months to 2 years, depending on the person. And this thing here, guys, this can be life going forward. This can be everything. This can be just the rest of your days. Always going up and up and up and up and up, rather than having these ups and downs, ups and downs. And yes, progress is not linear, but if you zoom out and you look at it on 30, 60, 90, 180 day cycles, you're going to be able to stack more good days than bad days, and then a rising tide will lift all ships, and you'll have a net positive outcome from the daily inputs and what you're going through and experiencing. So lads, if you enjoyed this little video, please make sure to rate, comment and subscribe. Remember, as always, you're not weak, you're not lost, you're simply just unaware right now. And if you truly want to reclaim your spot at the top, build an elite physique, master your mindset and live a life on your own terms, then you've got to understand that you got to keep climbing, you got to keep pushing, and you got to install the belief system and play the game on a longer time horizon. Guys, love you and leave you. Let's go. Let's get it. I will see you in the next one.